Before I start, I just want to thank everyone for their support in helping me to reach 250,000 subscribers. It's a number I never thought I'd reach. My New Year's goal was to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and even that number seemed impossible, so thank you all very much. The case you're about to hear is incredibly distressing, and by the end, you will most likely feel a deep anger, so I do warn you before I proceed. The case takes place in Kansas City, USA. On the 25th of November 2015, the police received a phone call from a woman named Heather Jones. Heather was calling because her husband Michael had hit her and tried to shoot her. Heather and Michael lived together along with a boy named Adrian Jones. Adrian was 7 and he lived with 6 of his other siblings. Heather was Adrian's stepmother. A woman named Diana Pierce was his biological mother, and he lived with her in Lawrence, Kansas for the first few years of his life. But when he was found unattended at home, he was removed from his mother's custody and placed into the care of his father. So as I said before, Heather called the police, and soon they were dispatched to the house. Inside, the police were disgusted at what they found. There was bullet holes in the walls, and the floor was covered in rat poison, dead mice, syringes, and hardcore adult entertainment videos and magazines. The house was in no way an acceptable environment for children. While the police were at the home, they got some information that Adrian had been missing for a number of months. His extended family had not seen him for some time. He and his 6 other siblings were homeschooled, so no red flags were raised there, and an Amber Alert had not been issued. Heather and Michael's 6 other children who lived in the house were taken into protective custody, and Michael and Heather were both arrested. After they were arrested, Heather asked her landlady Jennifer Hoovers to save some pictures of her children from her Apple iCloud account. Jennifer was happy to help, not knowing what she would soon uncover. When she logged into the account, she found some images of Adrian, images showing the horrific things that had happened to the poor boy. Once back at the station, Heather told the police that if they were to look around the property, they'd find the remains of Adrian. Heather said that Michael had killed him, and that she was innocent. She claimed that she wanted to help Adrian, but Michael had knocked her 2 front teeth out. After this, she said she became too scared to save him. After Jennifer discovered the images on Heather's iCloud account, she made her way down to the police station and handed the images over. The images documented what Adrian had suffered and showed the final few months of his life. I'm now going to share the details of what Adrian suffered, all of which was documented by the couple, and they seemingly enjoyed documenting it too. There were surveillance cameras in every room. Michael and Heather monitored Adrian's every move. Heather referred to Adrian as the boy, rather than to use his given name, in a twisted attempt to dehumanize him. Michael and Heather both cared for the 6 other girls, but Adrian was the one who was targeted. He was routinely beaten, often until he bled. In one instance, Heather had used a broom to beat him in the face over and over, resulting in cutting his face and him bleeding. Heather pulled out a camera and snapped some pictures of her work. Of course, I can't share the images of him hurt here. Many of them are simply too distressing. It was not uncommon for Adrian to be forced to stand in freezing, stagnant water outside for long periods of time, sometimes for the entire night, alone and terrified. There was also a video of Adrian where he was shackled outside in the winter, completely helpless and shivering as he stood outside wearing only his pajamas. In the video, Adrian desperately tries to drink from a cup, but he's unable to because his wrists are handcuffed behind his back. There were also images found of Adrian strapped to an ironing board with a blindfold placed over his eyes. He was strapped in what is known as stress positions for hours on end. A stress position means to put a person's body in such a way that a great amount of weight is placed on just one or two muscles, causing a great deal of pain and uncomfort. It is also reported that there are numerous images of Adrian standing in the shower, showing him getting thinner and thinner, until his tiny frame was almost skeletal. The couple wanted to document how his body deteriorated over time. From the constant attacks, Adrian's ankles were bent out of shape and were constantly inflamed. Michael had set up an alarm system on the refrigerator and the food cupboard, so if Adrian ever tried to get any food, the couple were notified, and if the alarm were to ever go off, they would punish him for trying to eat. Adrian was allowed to eat, but only out of a maggot-infested bowl outside, with his hands tied behind his back. Sometimes, the couple would shove a bar of soap into his mouth as far as they could, knowing that he wouldn't be able to get it out. They would then place food in front of him and walk away. Inside the home, the couple had ripped out one of the showers and turned it into a makeshift prison cell made from plywood. In the photograph on screen now, you can see Heather posing in front of it, taking a selfie. This is where Adrian would be kept towards the end of his life. One of the photographs on the iCloud account showed a close-up of Adrian's cut, bloody lips, caused by him attempting to chew out of his plywood cell, and other photos showed what appeared to be taser marks on his skin. One of Adrian's siblings said that they heard him screaming through a vent, saying, "I'm going to die." They then heard Heather say, "Suck it up." I could go on with the horrors that Adrian suffered, but I'm sure you get the picture by now. He was once a healthy and happy boy, but towards the end of his life, he was almost unrecognizable, a shell of the child he once was. Then one day, after months of suffering and starvation, Adrian's body gave up. He tragically starved to death. Adrian had died alone in the shower cell, and they left his body there for 2 weeks. Michael and Heather then went out and purchased some pigs, and for the couple of weeks, they didn't feed the pigs, just to make sure they were extremely hungry. They then threw Adrian's body into the pigsty. Now I guess you're wondering, just how did they get away with this? How did no one know about what was happening? Why were there no checks? Well, if your blood wasn't boiling already, it soon will be. 2 years before Adrian's heartbreaking death in 2013, a child social service worker and a police officer were both speaking with Adrian. Adrian confided in them and told them that his father had been kicking him. This is a quote from Adrian. He said, "My daddy keeps hitting me in the head and punches me in the stomach. My mum keeps pulling on my ears and it really hurts. Mummy and daddy lock me in my room by myself and they don't feed me." They inspected Adrian's body and they said they could not find any physical marks or evidence. Adrian was not removed from their care. The social services were there because they had received calls with concern for Adrian's well-being. One caller reported that his mum beats the living daylights out of him for no reason. Another caller said they had witnessed Adrian eating food from the trash. Adrian was not removed from their care. The social services did, however, set up continuous home visits to check on him. During one of these visits, Adrian said he was made to sleep outside in the freezing cold and that he was denied food and had to get food out of the trash can. He also said that Michael and Heather hit him and locked him up in the closet at night, but it seems that they didn't take these statements too seriously. After a couple of weeks, the couple told the services that they were moving and that they no longer needed these checks anymore. Heather straight away pinned all the blame on Michael and said that she was a victim too and that he used to beat her. She said that she had discovered that Adrian had died and that she now suspected that he was going to kill her shortly before she was arrested because she had found out what had happened. But it's clear from the evidence that the police uncovered that she participated in a lot of the horrific suffering that Adrian faced. She apologized for what happened to Adrian and claimed that she had no one to turn to save her and Adrian from Michael. She is quoted as saying, "I can't go back now, but I truly from the bottom of my heart am sorry. I wasn't strong enough to protect him. I wish I could take it back." Michael Jones and Heather Jones were charged with first-degree murder and both pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. They were sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Adrian's life was short, and it's unimaginable just how much he must have suffered at the hands of those who were supposed to care for him. Questions were raised, just how could the system have failed him so badly? Adrian was described as a young boy who was full of life, who talked non-stop about his love for football, and he hoped one day to play. Prosecutors who worked on Adrian's case have said that the crime is one of the most heinous they have ever seen, and I think I have to agree with them.